On today's show, 3 questions. Number 1, what's the latest Fed drama? Number 2, does Trump only care about the stock market? And number 3, are you scared to go to the grocery store? Let's go. Welcome to Dentist Money's 2 cents, where we help dentists navigate all the noise. I'm Matt.
And I'm Rabih.
Yeah, you are. Happy weekend, everybody. Rabih, we need to have maybe a bit of a session here where we bring you back to earth a little bit from, or just like maybe console you a little bit from the vacation podcast. You had sounds like a rough go this week when you were listening to our vacation podcast.
I will have to start with that. You and Taylor did an amazing job on that podcast.
Taylor was amazing. He
I
wrote a
could
great
listen
article.
to it more than once.
Yeah, good.
I saw the advertisement of it. Everyone was talking about it in the office. I was like, I need to listen to this. So I can't fall asleep. My brain doesn't shut down. So I need a distraction. So I was like, let me fall asleep to Matt and Taylor's voice. I put on a podcast and it was like midnight. And I close my eyes and I'm listening to it. And I could feel my heart rate going up.
No,
I was getting like every truth sentence you guys were saying, it opened my eyes and I'm like, and now I had to sit and like think about how I feel about vacations and how my body reacts to vacations. And it was like 1:20 a.m. and I'm still not asleep just because
boy,
I'm still listening to it. It was, when you're like sitting with a stranger and suddenly the conversation gets real. And you thought, this is what happened with me. Whether it was about the guilt, about not being able to draw boundaries. And I'm like, shoot, I need to revise my outlook on life.
You're like, I feel so exposed right now.
So, yeah, I didn't expect that from a podcast, but I love it. Thank you, guys.
Well, it's like, thank you. And also, I'm sorry, I think, maybe. I don't know. Mixed emotions right now.
No, I'm not going to play ostrich,
Yeah.
I discovered that I have a completely toxic relationship with vacations. So it's not only girls, also vacations.
Well, Taylor and I, as you could hear, had like a full on, I had a lot of self discovery on that podcast, just like in real time. And then we had a bit of a therapy session where Taylor opened up a lot about he doesn't like my jokes about how much he vacations. I'm really working on that. I'm really working on not being such a jerk to Taylor and Will about their life. But what I told them, and I'll stand by it and I'll say it again, it's really just insecurities that I have because I have I'm the same way as you, Rabih. On the whole podcast, I was like, man, I really need to reevaluate my whole life. This is more for me than it was for anyone else. So, well, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad it was a good episode. We got a couple emails and some people reaching out about it. So that's what we love. We love that it's helpful. So if you have not listened to it, you can go check it out. It was our episode from this week on Wednesday on the main show. All right, let's jump in, Rabih. First of all, you said before we got on, you're like, there's not a lot of news to talk about, but let's talk about what's the latest Fed drama.
Yes. Well, and when I say drama, it's not like the Desperate Housewives. It's like very toned down.
Well,
then
what are we doing? What are we even doing here?
Like you would expect a gossip session, etc. But this one is more benign. It's under the table. But I don't think we can deny the fact that there is drama at the Fed. Given that in May, we're going to have a new Fed president, and there are people who would want to take that position. Right?
Yep. I think you're in the mix, aren't you? Or have they reached out yet?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. They disqualified me. They said you don't know how to take vacations. So.
Yeah.
They did not include me.
They're like, you wouldn't do well in Jackson Hole. Sorry.
Exactly. They're meeting in this month in Jackson Hole. So we got the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, ending his term in May. That's going to be a replacement. We got 2 dissenters. And I think I read that stat somewhere. It was the first time we had people dissenting at a Fed meeting in like 40 years. So, wow. And I pulled up what their arguments was for what their dissent is. And the last one, which throws in more to the pot, stirs the pot, is that one of the Fed governors who came in as a replacement when Biden took office, because Biden took one of the Fed governors and put them in the government with them. She was a replacement, and her term supposed to end in January, decided to immediately resign, which opens up a position on the board of the Federal Reserve that could potentially be assigned as the chair. Just to give you some background. The Federal Reserve Board, or called the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee, is composed of like 12 members. Half of them are a rotation between all the different 12 feds across the states, and the other half of them are assigned by the government, and they have to be approved by the Senate, etc. So
They're appointees. So some of them are appointees directly from the government.
100%. Half are appointees, the other half have a rotation of the Fed governors
Got it.
across all the different Feds. So we got 2 dissenters from this committee, and then we had an open vacancy. And I know that the Fed is an independent, objective, committee, but you can't take the human element out of it. And if any one of them is thinking 9 months ahead, they would want to, I don't know, send a message under the table that they
Yeah.
are there.
You're saying the dissenters are kind of like there's may be some political aspects of that or motivations.
Probably, but it's so under the surface. No one would say it. I'm just trying to be rational about human behavior and, people who are looking for personal growth. The dissent is coming from a governor and the vice chair. So I'm not like going into a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's
Let's
even
do
big.
it. No, let's
I'm not
go.
going to big drama, but it would be naive for us to think that those guys are robots and they are not really taking that as a sign. By them descending, it could be them sending a message to the administration that they are willing to go on the path where policy favors a regime that has much lower interest rates and stuff. So let's look at the arguments to start with. We've got Governor Christopher Waller. He said he thinks that the tariff impact is temporary. They're going to be a one-off increase in price levels, and they do not signal lasting inflation. As long as expectations remain anchored, they can be safely looked through. That is the main argument for him. And what they mean by expectations is what we think is the 5-year inflation expectation or the 10-year inflation expectation. And we can see that in the market. We can track it. We look at the 10-year treasury, what the yield of that is on that thing. And then we look at the 10-year tips and we see the difference in the yield. And that tells us what the market thinks inflation expectations are going to be like. Those have been anchored around 2.5% for the last year and a half. The Federal Reserve has done a really good job keeping inflation expectations anchored, aka long-term. We do not think that in 10 years from now, inflation is going to be rampant at 6-7%. This is not what the market thinks. And the governor is saying, Waller, is that expectations have been stable. We know that tariffs are going to be a one-time increase in movement unless something breaks. So let's look beyond that. Let's not be data dependent. That is the first argument that they said. The second argument that the governor posted is that the policy stance is too restrictive. He said that real GDP growth in the first half of 2025 was 1.2%, well below the estimates, and unemployment rate is still 4.1. And he is saying that he argued that the current rates of 4.5%, 4.25, 4.5 are 1.25 to 1.5 basis points above neutral. So this guy in his statement is saying that I wouldn't cut interest rates by a quarter. I would bring interest rates back down to 3%.
Whoa. In one shot?
No, definitely not. But he
But
would
just
put a
quickly.
track. Yeah, it's like I would be so interested to look at the dot plot, which is what each member votes in the September meeting, and see if there are multiple people who would want a 50 basis point cut in September rather than a 25 basis point cut. So, this is a public statement. This is a press release that's posted online on the Fed's website, etc., about justifying the dissent. And this could be a signal to the administration. So now I'm like, okay, this guy is entering the race in my perspective.
Absolutely.
Thus the drama, right? The last one is the labor market risk are rising. The headline metrics look good. And by the way, remember last week on Friday, we said, oh, they revised the previous 2 months. And this month we only added 75,000 jobs. The revision was so big. The revision took away 800,000 jobs over the last 2 months.
Whoa.
A big number. And probably why the president was pissed at the Bureau of Labor Statistic and decided to fire that guy, because they needed to point finger at someone, right? So that is a big number. And after the revision, if you look at it, the labor market isn't as doing as strong as it has been, and as good as we thought it has done in the last
How,
2 months.
Robbie, how does that happen? 800,000 like person revision? Like
It
that's
is
wild.
it is a lot, but the idea, like, if you look at how the numbers are collected, it's not like someone is in control of the process. You're talking about 1,000 employees collecting so many different data points, going through so many different surveys, that you don't even know what the final print is until they are like congregated and they are all condensed into the final number that's reaching the top of the Bureau of Labor Statistic, right? No one employee could guess what the number is going to be like. So it's either that, and this is where, it's a little bit on the tangent. It's not hypothetical, that the Bureau of Labor Statistics just decided to scratch that number and put a number out of their own
Just throw it
mind
out
over
there.
there,
Yeah.
which is very unlikely, obviously, because the whole economic system depends on the trustworthiness of these. Or which is more probable, this employment data does not come in one day. It's not like they tell all companies across the world, the country, hey, give me your open vacancies count every single Friday. They post them. Some data comes in earlier, some other data, and it seems like they posted the numbers before the full batch of data came in. And when this new data came in that belongs to the previous 2 months, I'm not saying it does not belong to them, it's just was very late to be delivered, they had to adjust, and that happened. It's probably mechanic related to how data is gathered, etc. And remember something, this is a piece of drama over here. With the Doge whole thing, the Fed was warning, when we were at the summit, we were talking about it, that they are now doing less surveys than they used to collect economic data, which will cause variability in the data. This is it. This is it showing. So
So a lot of room for human error and just less resources probably to get the actual data. It seems like a big deal because as we talk about how related this is with the Fed making decisions off of data, and then right in the next breath we say, well, the data was way off. That's tricky. That makes it really tough for the Fed and for this whole dynamic of lowering interest rates, keeping them steady. Like if you're data dependent, the fundamental belief is that the data is at least somewhat accurate.
100%. And if you are worried, just to take it a step further back in the chain, if you are worried about the quality of the data, do not fire the people who get you the data.
Yeah.
It's fed on itself in a sense. It's not a big problematic thing, but if you really do not want that data to change, it means that you should be very confident in the output that you give. And if that means that you need human capital to be able to do more work to get it, so be it. It could be very important to spend federal money on that.
Yeah. We've given some data the last couple of weeks on unemployment. You said they've adjusted it now over the last 2 months. Now down, they've adjusted it downwards
Mhm.
of 800,000
Jobs.
jobs. So what we thought was it. So basically, we thought there was 800,000 jobs that weren't actually there. Got it. So some more weakening in the unemployment data than we thought. Or sorry, just the labor market.
The labor market. And actually, it didn't show up in the unemployment, but we'll get to that in a second, because those were the arguments from the Governor Waller. But if we go to the Vice Chair, Michelle Bowman, she said, one, and if you ignore tariffs, that is the first argument she was making. If you ignore tariffs, inflation is easing. We saw inflation moving closer to the 2% goal. And once tariff driven distortions are removed, coupled with moderate spending and slower residential investments, inflation is going down, which is what the Fed said last week, right? He said the headline inflation number isn't changing, but under the water level, goods inflation is rising and service inflation is going down. So what she's saying is, if you exclude the tariffs, which is good inflation, service inflation is going down. So we are still on track on lower inflation on the stuff that are not affected by
So
tariffs.
Robbie, is that like me saying if you ignore the bowl of ice cream I had last night, I actually ate really well yesterday? Is
Yes.
that okay? Got it. Just making sure. I ate super healthy yesterday then.
Yes. The second one is labor market softening and fragility. And here's where I want to get it. The argument is, despite low unemployment, which what we're saying, it's still at 4.1, 4.2%, the unemployment to population ratio has dropped. Hiring is narrowing across industries and labor market dynamism is diminishing. So less jobs are being created. We revised it by 800,000. But the number of people who can get jobs is also decreasing. So because both of them are going down, the unemployment rate, which is the ratio of these two, is actually staying stable. So we're
Staying,
looking at the
okay, yeah.
unemployment rate, it's not moving, but it's not because the economy is growing or the labor market is in a really good position. No, it's because, one, we're not creating as many jobs, and two, we are losing labor supply, whether it was deportation or people choosing, I don't know, the natural tendency to people to go out of the labor force because they've come of age. And no, the US is of a aging demographic, right? And the higher the stock market, the more people are comfortable retiring type of attitude. So you've got different.
I'm thinking about it. I'm considering it.
I would, but I would be bored.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this drama. So, so the idea is the labor to population ratio is going down, and the number of jobs that are available are going down, which is they're going down at kind of the same pace, where the unemployment rate is not changing because of that. But this does not mean that there is weakening in the labor market. That
Got
is
it.
the argument she's making. And the last one is the idea is, let's not be too data dependent, similar to what Governor Waller said. The argument is that preemptive easing is warranted. With growth slowing and inflation nearing target, she believed it was appropriate to gradually shift policy toward neutral to guard against downturn in unemployment or economic activity. So the idea is, and like at the core of it, those two people are choosing not to be as data dependent as the Fed is, as the rest of the committee is. They're saying that we could really move forward, which is a new rhetoric. It'll set expectations differently, because let's assume in May we have a new Fed governor, right? And that committee is more aligned to be preemptive rather than be data dependent. You would start seeing the market reacting much quickly. The moment we get weakening data, people will think this is a trend and they would reflect those in the prices. So if we move to a more preemptive monetary policy rather than a data dependent monetary policy, we would expect the market to start moving and reacting much faster than it does now.
Got it.
Now it's all about let's wait. And if we're too late, we'll panic a little bit, but then we'll correct course. This is the theme.
So it sounds like these dissenting opinions have merit, possibly. Like there's legitimate
Yeah,
arguments backing
absolutely.
them up. But also, it seems like interesting timing with the fact that Trump has turned up the dial on even making comments about firing Fed, Chairman Powell, which is not going to happen at this point. It's just interesting timing that we've had dissenters for the first time in 40 years, right on the heels of Trump turning up the heat on Powell and him being very open with what he wants, which is, being preemptive and lowering rates. And all of a sudden, these two people are like, you know what? Yeah, this is a legitimate opinion that we're going to lower rates. It's just, I think both things can be true. They're making legitimate, maybe
I
coincidence.
think not.
I think not. No, and again, I think both things can be true. Like it can be legitimate. Like I think there are legitimate reasons why you'd consider it. This is a soft science. This is not a hard science. This is economics, especially the macro level. So there is room for multiple opinions on this. I just think it's interesting timing. Yeah, not necessarily a coincidence.
I agree. And this is looking at it from the perspective that the Fed is right and those two are dissenting. But, and here's the drama, enter dramatic music.
Yes.
What if those two people are right and the Fed was being political? Because after Trump's visit to the Federal Reserve building and that whole thing on camera, and he's telling him, hey, cut rates, Powell is like, he is a human after all. I can't succumb to the pressure of the federal government. I need to maintain the Fed's credibility, even if it was smarter to cut in July. And the data showing it was smarter to cut in July. I will, put my foot firm in the ground and not cut until September just to prove that point.
Interesting.
Right?
You think that's a possibility?
It could be there because if The Fed has access to the economic data. And actually, Jerome Powell has said it earlier in the year. If it weren't for tariffs and the uncertainty they added, they would have already cut by like June or July.
Oh.
It was said before by him. But now, not only tariffs, although the impact has been, muted, it's not as strong as we thought. The inflationary impact of tariff has been, given the delays and postponing the deadline, etc. But now there's a political aspect to it. It became personal, right? It's not that it became personal. I don't think they argue between each other, or like they have a text message at night where they're fighting.
We don't know that.
But
Yeah.
from the perspective of what the media is saying, if the Federal Reserve had cut in July, the headline at least some newspapers would have been that, oh, Trump won, the Fed isn't as independent, and they could have probably wanted to avoid that. This is as far as it goes, but it is drama, right? It is
Yeah.
drama, and
I'm
it's
sweating.
all gonna end in July, and it's all gonna end when the next Fed governor is announced.
Well, and I think Trump has mentioned or made comments recently that he's nearing a decision or announcing who it's going to be, which will be interesting. If it's one of these two dissenters,
It's gonna be
then
interesting. Yeah.
it'll be very interesting.
Could
Keep
it
an
be
eye
the
on that.
vice chair? Because, by hierarchy, she's the closest to the position.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. The fact that it was the vice chair who dissented.
I know.
Come on. All right. Well, we will be covering it as it comes up. So thanks, Rabih, for that. That was a lot of drama. I do feel like I just watched an episode of, I don't know, what's a dramatic show? Love Island?
Yeah,
I don't
but you're
watch.
watching it in slow motion.
Yeah, with old people. Exactly. Okay, let's jump in. Does Trump only care about the stock market? So I thought this was interesting. Speaking of tariffs, see that transition there, Rabih? Speaking of tariffs, Trump is embroiled in another battle when it comes to all of the tariffs he's put in. I'm sure people are out there, or maybe not, but it seems like every day or every week, Rabih, at least multiple times a week, there's new news on like Trump's new policy with this country and raising it or lowering it or extending it. I don't even know where we're at right now. Truly, I don't even know where we are. Like, he's talking about, the latest I saw was he's talking about now 100% tariffs on India because they're making deals with Russia and their oil. It's the wild, wild west right now when it comes to tariffs. But what is also happening in the background is intergovernment dispute and battle between different groups, where now the courts are starting to hear arguments as to why they can stop or should be able to stop tariffs, at least at some form or some level. And I did not know this, Rabih. I was today years old when I learned this, that the Supreme Court they can actually disqualify the duties that have been ordered under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Let's see, what is that as an acronym? The EPA, just made that up. International Emergency Economic Powers Act, that was enacted by Congress in 1977. I guess they have actually the jurisdiction or the power to end these tariffs in some way or hamper him from putting them in place. What Trump said when this all came out, of course, it's very political, but he basically referenced the stock market. He basically said that if you did this, it would have, or that the tariffs, he said, the only thing he really cited was it has a positive impact on the stock market. And but by hampering this, or by, pulling this on him and taking the power away from him, in no uncertain terms said it would be 1929 all over again, all caps, Great Depression. Talk about drama, Rabih. So I want to get your thoughts, first of all, and before we jumped on here, when he talks about it being positive for the stock market, I think you had some thoughts on that.
Yes, I want to start with the act because I didn't know it was in 1977, but this was very close to the time when Nixon was in office, right?
He was, yes, I believe, yes, yeah, it would be.
And that's when they decided to break down the Bretton Woods system and exchange.
Yep.
It gave
off the gold standard.
Yep, it gave the executive branch of the government power to dictate economic policy going forward, right? And if he's referencing that act to justify tariff impact, that could work. But I think the Supreme Court can only go and decide whether an action is constitutional or not. So as long as those tariffs are not unconstitutional, or they are constitutional. I don't think they can do anything yet. And with the
Yeah.
Supreme Court, it takes time. As for whether it's good for the stock market or not, this is like this is a logical fallacy, because forget about the president and like trying to push a certain narrative. We always say that what happens in the stock market is completely unpredictable, because it is what the market thinks about what is actually happening in the economy. So the hard part, the really hard part, is trying to decide whether those tariffs are going to increase inflation or not, right? And it's really going to depend on how businesses react. That is where uncertainty lies. Then add another layer to it. How will the market and participants react to how the economy reacts, right? So it is so many.
And then how are we going to react on 2 cents to how the people reacted to the economy based on like this is Inception, my guy.
It's a
This is
chain
Inception.
reaction. It's a
Chain
domino effect.
reaction. With us being the tip of the spear, let's just be honest. Yes.
100%. So just saying that, oh, tariffs will, for like jumping from A to Z without going through the rest of the alphabets, is a logical fallacy. And we do not know if it's going to be good for the stock market or not. So far, the reaction from the stock market has been, oh, let's ignore all the tariff thing until it is a signed economic agreement between two countries, and will react as such. And let me throw these numbers in for you, Matt, since we're talking about the stock market. Year to date, gold is up 30%, Bitcoin is up 23%, etc. Developed markets are up 22.5%. Emerging markets are up 18.5%. A globally diversified portfolio, which is a mix of everything, is up 13%. And S&P 500, or the US
S&P watch, what do we got?
9.3%, right? So we're up 9.3% simply based off continuing economic growth, because the economy is strong, although it's slowing down, and just indecisiveness and complete uncertainty on the path of tariffs. Once they'll go into effect, I think the market would react. It is very interesting that there is a 10-point difference between the US market and the rest of the world. And that 10-point could be just the uncertainty about the tariffs. Why isn't the US catching up? The US economy is doing as good as the other ones. It's just money
Or
is
better,
away.
right? I mean, if we're
Or
even
better.
talking about the foreign markets, we've mentioned this before. A lot of the drive in the returns in the market is the currency, is the actual just currency exchange and that. So I mean, we've talked about this too. Like when it comes to Europe, if we're talking developed markets, the US economy, there's no doubt about this. The US economy has been performing better underneath it all, even if the markets have not been.
Yes.
So you're saying a lot of this has to do with the uncertainty of tariffs.
It is there. It's probably like it. Honestly, if this president is saying, "Oh, it's gonna be good for the stocks," hey, do some A/B testing, because it seems like you can turn off economic agenda and turn them off through a tweet. Say that the whole tariff plan is disappearing for a week, and
See what
then
happens.
see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, Robbie, I would not be shocked if that happens at some point, by the way.
No,
Like the way that this changes day to day, I would not be shocked if all of a sudden tomorrow or Monday he says, you know what? We're good. We're going to do something
yeah,
different.
the tweeting game is a very hard drinking game to win.
Yeah.
You would not.
Nobody would win and we'd all be drunk. We know that. So what you're saying, Robbie, is that it's shocking because it feels like the president is so rational, especially when he tweets. You're saying that this could just be drama he's throwing out there
What I'm
when he says
saying
Great
is
Depression
that,
level.
well, yeah, especially the Great Depression level. Let's really tune out the noise on that one.
Yes.
It's really political. It's 100% political. And our argument is that the economy works in chains, and you can't jump from A to Z with absolute certainty without forgetting the rest of the letters in between. That's why we're not going to take that statement with any merit. It's not something against the president. It's something against the argument itself.
Yep. Okay. Well, see, calm down, everyone. 2 cents is here to help you navigate it. Mainly Robbie. Okay, Robbie, are you scared to go to the grocery store? There's kind of a couple of things I wanted to hit on this because this is. I'll just give you the main part of this. I really wanted to bring this up mainly to show you how the media manipulates and sensationalizes things. I'll just read this. So the question around groceries. So the article that caught my eye was that almost all read this. So listen to this, Robbie. Almost 90% of Americans are worried about the cost of groceries. Almost 90%. Are you scared of going to the grocery store, Robbie?
I sense that it is more expensive, but I do not sense it as expensive as it was, remember, in 2022. Like, I remember every time I'd go to and uh, the reason I could voice my opinions on grocery stores is because I'm a foodie and I cook a
You
lot. So I
are
go
a
to the
foodie.
grocery store every single day, right? I love cooking. Back in 2022, I would come and look at the receipt and it's like, oh my goodness, that is big. That is a huge, that was inflation as at its peak, right? And it hurts me. Now I go, especially when you go to like Costco and you can't leave there without $150, for a couple of items. I know it's expensive, but it doesn't come to me as shocking or scary, going back to whether I'm afraid as it used to be in 2022. I know it's expensive, but I've rationalized it.
I think most people, by the way, if you ever want to have a good time and whenever you see Robbie, if you get the opportunity, if you're ever blessed with the opportunity to hang out with Robbie for any amount of time, just bring up food.
You're
And
not over that burger we had on
if
Wednesday,
you
are you?
no, oh man, I needed a nap after that. It was really good. But if you bring pictures, you win bonus points. And you want to share pictures with the foodie, the ultimate foodie of Robbie. He says he's not going to retire because he never will. What he will do is just transition into being a restaurateur and a chef. So I want you to do that now and start a restaurant called Robbie's. Okay, so just some back some data here. So from June 2024 to June 2025, groceries got more expensive in every category tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But can we really trust them? We don't know. We don't know anymore. Meat, poultry, fish, eggs rose in price by 5.6%. Egg prices alone, which I have not been tracking this, but I thought recently egg prices were coming down. That's what Trump's been telling me. But egg prices alone rose 27.3% from 24 to 25, June 24 to June 25.
I don't know. A 2 dozen was like $8 at Costco the other day, this weekend.
Two
That's
dozen. That doesn't seem. I think part of it is to your point. I've adjusted to. I don't even think about it anymore. Non-alcoholic beverages, 4.4% up. So anyway, it's basically breaking down. The groceries are more expensive. But here's what I wanted to highlight. Coming back to the title of the article, almost 90% of Americans are worried about the cost of groceries. Here's where they got that. There was a poll done by the Center of Public Affairs. And what it really found, here's as you break it down. 50% of people said groceries, they claim they use the word major source of stress. So it's actually about 50%. 33% say it's a minor source of stress. So when you really, but then you look at the title of the article and it's in like all caps, more than 90% of Americans or almost 90% of Americans are scared to go to the grocery. It's like, you got to look further than the headline. It's actually
100%.
not as big of a deal as what if you just read that, because that headline caught my eye. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And then you really look at it, it's like, I think it's about 50-50. People worry about it. Some people worry about it. A lot of people are not worrying about it.
Are you worried about it?
Not at all. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
But I also, I will admit, like I will say that from the perspective of being in a fortunate circumstance when I don't, that I know there are a lot of people out there, like even to say like 50% of people out there are thinking about and are majorly stressed about groceries. Like that's a big deal. I fully acknowledge that and have empathy for that. I am fortunate and feel grateful that that is not a concern for me. I've never thought about going. I don't think about it. I just, if I need stuff, I go to the store. My kids need stuff, we go, and it's not a big. I've never once thought about it in my adult life, like worried about groceries. And again, I acknowledge that is a very, do we say privileged position to be in? I don't know. It is a very privileged, like a fortunate place to be in. I say, and I think most of our listeners are in the same spot.
I would think so. Yeah. For me, I'm not worried, but I'm more like disappointed every time I go to the grocery store because I'm looking at the bill and then I'm looking at my card. It's like, this is less than 5 items. This is what the feeling
Yeah,
I
it
get.
can. That's true. If you're
Yeah.
talking in that context, like, have I been to the store before? I actually feel this more at restaurants. So, like, I took my kids to Chick-fil-A yesterday.
Mhm.
Sponsor of the show. Just kidding, not really. But I took them to Chick-fil-A yesterday because my kids love Chick-fil-A, and it was I was like pretty caught off guard. It was like almost
Yeah,
$40 for my two little munchkins and me. So it was so it's not like I stress about it, but yes, it certainly caught my eye at times.
100%. Yeah, this is where we are. Well, I've thought about this just to justify my feeling about it. I was like, okay, if I'm annoyed by the higher prices at the grocery, which translate to higher profits to these grocery chain stores, why not just buy their stocks?
Ooh, I
You
like
know?
this.
You
Yeah.
know, if it's bothering you that this is what's happening, then maybe put a little bit more money there, because what is happening is that money is leaving from the grocery shoppers to the grocery providers. So if that is bothering you, just switch
Take
sides.
advantage of it.
Switch sides.
Yeah.
It'll be that painful until real income goes up, and then suddenly it's nothing for you, and they can raise prices again. That is, we're playing tic tac as the economy grows. So if it's expensive, invest in the people who are making it more expensive, because this means they are making more money.
I actually love that you just brought that up, Robbie, because I think that maybe seems obvious to people, but when you put it in that way, like this is truly the beauty of the public markets, is that it is so accessible for you to change your positioning in the economy from being a consumer to being an investor,
Yes.
being a capitalist. And I don't think like I think that's something we actually take for granted in general. Like I love that you just framed it that way. Like if this bothers you or if you're consuming these products, you can also be an investor in these products and be truly an owner of those businesses. That is truly what the public markets
Yes.
are all about. And so I love that you put it that way. And I think it hopefully shifts some mindsets out there of like, you can do both. You can put yourself in that position to actually reap the rewards of the shifting economy that is constantly happening. You're like, that's it. That's nailed it. Robbie, we're gonna add a little finishing touch to these episodes from now on. Tell the people what you're watching. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you doing lately? What are your hobbies?
Really?
What are you into? I put you on the spot.
I know where this is going.
What do you mean?
No? Okay.
Where's it going?
The fact that I do not watch anything.
Oh no, I wasn't even thinking that.
Actually, I read a
Robbie,
book.
tell the people what a loser you are.
No, I'm actually reading a book. It's called Zen Mind, Beginner Mind. It's a book about Zen Buddhism, and which is the Japanese
Send me the
style of
link.
Buddhism. It's a really good book, and it's just a different perspective on life. Something from that book that I'd want to share. That is really good. So since we opened that discussion, and they talk about the daily stress, etc. And the analogy was like about daily stress and about daily work. We think anxiety or like trying to calm down, etc., is just as a destination. I'm doing something. I'm like meditating. I'm breathing, etc. So I can reach a certain goal called feeling good about myself, as if you are working towards it, while in reality, all you have to do is do it and it happens. You're not reaching it. So the way you feel good is that you imagine yourself at the treadmill. You're not going to go anywhere, but you're going to keep walking, keep walking. You're not going to get anywhere because you're on a treadmill. But then it on its own come. It's not something you go after and achieve. It's something that emerges as a function of you doing the thing for the sake of doing it. And it
Interesting.
blew my mind. I love
Interesting.
that book.
There's a thought that, as you say that parallels that I think this parallels that you can tell me if I missed the mark here, but a concept I've been thinking a lot about is this relationship between action and motivation in general. And I actually woke up this morning thinking about it because I woke up very unmotivated today for some reason. But a concept I'm thinking about is like I think we often think about like that motivation comes before action, where it's actually the other way around. Like what you just said, like do the thing. You just got to do it. It's like I think actually action begets motivation, not motivation begets action. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about of like to get motivated, you actually have to take action. And that's something that I have anyway, just a new thing, or not maybe not new, but just something I've been thinking a lot about that just reminded me of that when you said that.
Yeah, it is aligned because in that book, and I'm reading it for like more philosophical perspectives about life. And from their perspective, if I know enough, I'm not an expert on Zen Buddhism at all, but if I understood it well, it's like the purpose is to just do because that feels good. So just do for the sake of doing, and then you're just gonna get those compound interest aspect of it to tie it back to.
You would tie it back to investing. That's awesome.
But I love how you asked me what I'm watching, and then the people got a snippet of our conversations in day-to-day life.
This is literally a day-to-day conversation between Rabih and I. Send me that link. I'd love to see that. I guess I called you out, so I'll call myself out. Just finished, relatively recent, finished a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Fantastic book. Highly recommend. And then finishing up Robert Greene, Laws of Human Nature, also very heavy, but good. Really, really good. You would actually really like that book, Rabih.
Okay.
Well, so we'll exchange links.
Well, let's exchange links. Yep.
Exchange links. I do watch stuff. So I do watch shows. Just started one yesterday. Last night, watched part of an episode because it was getting too late. But Chief of War on Apple TV with Jason Momoa.
Okay.
Oh, hot. Dude, so far, I mean, I'm only like 30 minutes in, but holy cow. Worth a watch. Apple TV does some good work. It's about the origins of the Hawaiian Islands.
That's nice.
In the 18th
Actually,
century.
I watched a documentary about it.
Of course you did. Stop it, Rabih.
It was so interesting. And then,
I bet it was.
And then Bill Clinton made a big public apology. And did you know that they took Hawaii? It was the sugar company. What's that logo on all the sugar that we see? The CF thing on all the sugar we see here in the US. That big company. I'll get it for next episode.
Someone's yelling right now. It's this. Yeah.
On next episode, I'll say it. But they came in as, investors, opened a sugar plant because they were using palm sugar, etc. And they exported sugar. And the sugar, they became too powerful on the island that they overthrew the monarch, the lady that was a monarch in Hawaii at that point. And then with time, they worked with the US government and said, hey, bring in military. Let's make this a state. So it was because, corporations decided it was better for them to make the island part of the country for their business. And then Clinton in the 90s issued a big apology about it. This is how I watch stuff. I watch. I don't.
So you learned more for sure and got more insight. But does your documentary have shirtless Jason Momoa in it? No, it does not, Rabih. So I dare say I win.
You won.
I dare say I win. I dare say I win. Okay, Rabih, we'll wrap it up there. Everyone, hopefully this was helpful. If it was helpful, please share this episode with a dentist, save their life. Okay, it's not that dramatic, but we would love for you to share the good word. If this was helpful and you want to spread the word of 2 cents and the Dentist Money Show, we would love it. If you want to talk to us, as always, you can go to the dentistadvisors.com, click on the book free consultation button. We're happy to talk to you. For now, Rabih, thank you for being here, sharing your wisdom. Everyone, thank you for listening.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you. The CNH.
Rabih, I was flowing. I was closing it out on a flow. I was literally riding the wave to end.
This is the first time I ever interrupt you, and I won't do it again.
Don't ever let it happen again. Okay, well, now what was the company? CNH?
CNH, the thing you see on every brand.
It's a company? I've never even knew this. I'm not observant enough. Okay, well, with that said, Rabih, thank you for being here, sharing your wisdom. Everyone, thanks for listening. That was our 2 cents. Till next time, bye-bye.